The UK and India recently concluded a free trade deal, and this week the India Global Forum took place in London, where the focus was on what steps British and Indian business can take now to make the most of the opportunities presented by the deal, even before it's been ratified. Our business reporter, David Waddell, was at the forum and caught up with India's Commerce Minister, Piyush Goyal.
The legal scrubbing is currently underway. However, I think the time is now right for businesses on both sides to start engaging with each other, start planning for the future, start building up collaborations, joint ventures, trading relationships, investment partnerships, so that it creates jobs, it creates business opportunities, both for UK and India.
And turning to the US, you've made repeat visits to Washington, where President Trump has called India a serial abuser of tariffs. Is that fair? Are you learning to adapt to a more mercantile United States?
Clearly, India is a country that large parts of the world wants to do business with, and it's going to be the biggest opportunity over the next 20, 30 years in terms of economic growth, in terms of potential for business. And I think countries across the world are now looking up to work with India to develop friendly relations with India.
You have very high tariffs. According to WTO data, your average tariff is 12%. How do you justify such high?
I think these average tariffs are a misnomer. The real figure to be seen is the applied tariff. And the applied tariff in most cases is in a low single digit. So while the tariff for WTO purposes, they look at tariff on 12,000 lines. No countries trade with each other on 12,000 lines.
But is there scope to grow the lines of trade if you adjust those tariffs?
That's what happens when you do bilateral free trade agreements. Tariffs often are kept high to also safeguard against countries which have unfair trading practices, against countries which do predatory pricing.
Turning to China now, your trade deficit with China is closing in on $100 billion. How concerned are you about consumer goods dumping from China?
Oh, we are very concerned. We are taking appropriate action wherever we find any sort of dumping. And it's unfortunate that about 20 years ago, India only had a small trade deficit with China. Unfortunately, India opened the floodgates to imports from China, and in a 10-year period from 2004 to 2014, our trade deficit with China became 26 times what it was. As we enter into bilateral agreements with other parts of the world, we are hoping that we'll expand trade and economic activity with the developed world and bring some more quality standards in India so that substandard goods at predatory pricing do not hurt the Indian economy.
Looking now at the terrible tragedy of the Air India crash this month, what steps is your government taking to improve aviation safety?
Well, it's been a very sad tragedy. I pay my condolences to all the families who lost their near and dear ones. Of course, the investigation into the causes of the accident is underway. And I do believe that it'll have to be a concerted effort between the manufacturing companies and all the user airlines to learn from such tragedies and create the right framework to avoid any such recurrence.